So even though this video has been done 100 times over, I've tried to bring a little bit more research to it, a little bit more facts, and I've tried to draw some conclusions based on the information that's out there and not just make this a complete opinion piece or a beat up on Micro Four Thirds is dead type video. And the first thing I want to say is if you have a Micro Four Thirds camera and you love that camera and you love the lenses and you love the image quality you're getting with using that setup, then I think a video like this is kind of irrelevant. This is just kind of a video about the camera market and what's going on. It has no impact on your ability to use and enjoy your camera and capture beautiful images. So if that's what you're all about and you're not curious about the camera market, I would just completely skip this video. I'm going to try to give you all the negative and positive indicators that I found in regards to the future of the Micro Four Thirds mount. And the first thing I need to talk about is the sale of Olympus's camera brand to Japan Industrial Partners. And sometime after that sale went through and Japan Industrial Partners were required to rename the camera system OM Systems because they weren't allowed to hold on to that Olympus name beyond the transition period, the Olympus CEO was interviewed. And when asked about the sale of the Olympus camera brand or the Olympus camera division, what he said was, we had to move before it became too late and those businesses became obsolete. That's a direct quote from him. He says that even though the cameras were a huge part of Olympus's brand identity, it is a requirement for the business to stay afloat. And at the time, he says that the cameras still had a right to exist and as such find the right home. Now, what he's basically saying here is that this wasn't a profitable part of the Olympus business model anymore. And Olympus had moved into medical imaging stuff. And really, the camera brand had just become a distraction. Now, whether it was going to be obsolete or not, I think from his point of view, he doesn't want to say it was a great asset they sold. And you often see with businesses that they will sell off divisions, even if they're still making money or a little bit of money. If they're making more money out of their other divisions, they will sell off the things that are kind of a distraction. Now, the next one I want to quote is the Sigma CEO, and I've got a couple of quotes here. In 2020, he was asked about their lens development, and he said, the DN lens lineup for mirrorless camera systems, including full frame and APS-C and Micro Four Thirds, is the future and what they're going to develop in the future. Now we fast forward to 2023 and he says, Sigma has no plans to develop new Micro Four Thirds lenses, though it will continue to support its current lineup of Micro Four Thirds lenses. And that currently includes 16mm, the 35mm, and the 56mm lens. They are no longer making or developing new Micro Four Thirds lenses. They're still going to build and sell the old ones. And later in that interview, he said that full frame is the future and they're seeing decline in sales of Micro Four Thirds. That might just be from his perspective or their lenses. But once again, this is not a great sign for the future of Micro Four Thirds. I will also link the articles that I found in the description down below so you can actually go down there and see and read word for word so you just don't have to take my word for it, as well as the exact quotes, and there's a bit more information in those articles. Another negative indication for the future of Micro Four Thirds is they have not released any new affordable Micro Four Thirds cameras in the last 3 to 4 years. They have released cameras, but not entry-level or more affordable cameras. And this is important because on any mount or in any camera system, generally the way it works is a camera manufacturer has those cheaper entry-level models, which they tend to sell a high volume of, but they make lower profit margins on them. And they're not just important for selling a lot of cameras. They're also important for bringing new users, people that aren't willing to commit a lot of money, or somebody who's young and doesn't have a lot of money, interested in getting into photography or video. It allows them to get into that system at a lower entry point. And then hopefully as they make more money later in life, or they become more experienced and are willing to commit more money to the hobby, they go up and they buy more expensive lenses and more expensive camera bodies. Right now, in the past 3 to 4 years, none of the new users or people looking to get into photography are being given new camera options at those lower price points. The other thing that I've noticed, and I've talked to people that work in camera stores, and what they've noticed is the Micro Four Thirds customer base, the people using Micro Four Thirds cameras, in general, are very old. And anytime I've walked into a camera shop, in fact, this just happened recently, I saw somebody at the counter talking to somebody, and he had a Micro Four Thirds camera in his hand. He was probably mid-60s, maybe early 70s, and this is pretty typical. It is a much older market, And when I asked the sales rep, I said, "Oh, I haven't seen somebody in here looking at Micro Four Thirds cameras in a while." And I said, who buys Micro Four Thirds cameras right now? And he said, old men. And that's been my experience as well. And if you go online and you look at the commentary on the forums or on YouTube, it is almost always older men. Now, this is not a bad thing that if old men buy a camera or into Micro Four Thirds cameras. The problem is that there aren't young people. And I think we're running into a situation where that market's getting older and older. And we've seen this with brands like Harley Davidson, who just didn't keep with the times, and young people wanted to buy sport bikes, and all of a sudden their market share declined and they're real trouble, and they were just trying to regain their footing in the market. And I think we are likely seeing a similar thing in Micro Four Thirds cameras, primarily in the Western market. Now, I do think there are some exceptions to this, and there are some younger people buying into Micro Four Thirds. They're just not in the Western market. And that brings me to the upside and the things that kind of look good for the future of Micro Four Thirds. And first, I've got a quote from a VP at Panasonic in regards to Micro Four Thirds. And he says, Micro Four Thirds has size benefits and a shooting experience that can't be matched by a smartphone. He emphasized that size and portability of the Micro Four Thirds lets it deliver things that full frame systems can't. Micro Four Thirds is a compact and lightweight system that enables handheld photography in a combination with telephoto lenses that is not possible with full frame. And he believes that it is an indispensable system for achieving compact body that can easily be carried. So that's just a vote of confidence from Panasonic. Whether that's just fluffer marketing, it's hard to know. That's from 2023. And the next thing we've got is the new Olympus owners. This is the Japan Industrial Partners. Now, this is a private equity firm. They bought this camera brand because they saw value and they saw some potential to make money in the future. And it is private equity. So these guys are generally smart. They can be more nimble. These are people that already have money, that are trying to make more money. This is not something that's being floated on the stock market. These are people that have to see a future. It is not about hype and a share price. Currently, we're focusing on outdoor use photography, he says. Based on our research and findings, the number of outdoor photographers is expected to increase or at least stay stable. He goes on to say, first of all, we have specifically targeted adventure and outdoor wildlife photographers because we believe our camera system is the best choice for this group of users. He also says in outdoor environments, having equipment that offers high performance and also being small and lightweight is crucial. He goes on to say our definition of outdoor use extends beyond just the adventurous. It encompasses outdoor activities in everyday life as well. Our system is ideal for individuals who enjoy capturing snapshots, macro shots while traveling, or shoot astrophotography. In addition, he says in Japan and Asia, we continue to sell the Pen EP7. Now, this is a very small, compact camera, which is like great for street photography and travel. The EP7 is small with compact bright lens, making it highly advantageous for travel photography. Therefore, we'll reinforce such products in our lineup in the future. This is a hint that they might release this camera in the United States, Canada, the Western world. Right now, it is just sold in Japan. The other thing that Micro Four Thirds has going for it is over the past 13 years, there has not been a single year that there hasn't been a new camera body released on the mount. So while we're talking all doom and gloom and are they going to make any more cameras, the history is that they have released a new camera for 13 years in a row, either Olympus or Panasonic has. So that is, I think, a pretty big deal, and it shows that there is a history there. It doesn't mean that it will necessarily go into the future, but at least at this stage, they are releasing new cameras every year, so there's a strong history of new releases. And if we look at the current lineup of new release cameras, we've got some really, really great cameras there. We've got the Panasonic GH7, we got the Panasonic G9 II, we got the OM System OM1 Mark II, and we got the OM System OM5. These are four cameras that are really as good as anything out there. And when you look at the Panasonic GH7, that's a camera that has a feature set that essentially no other camera on the market matches and can do at a consumer level. And then we've got the OM System OM1 Mark II, and I know a number of photographers that have had and used that camera or still use that camera as their primary camera. And these are people that could use Sony full frame or anything else they want, and they think that this is the best camera that they've ever owned. So the current release of these Micro Four Thirds cameras are the best that they've ever been, and we've got a couple of them there that are literally better in some ways than any full frame or APS-C camera on the market right now. The other thing is the older cameras are still great. And, I have a Olympus EM1 that I use all the time. I love this camera. It still produces incredibly high quality images. And I've got a Panasonic GH5. I paid like under $300 for the Olympus camera, and I paid under $500 for the Panasonic cameras. And these are still phenomenal cameras. So although we don't have any new release entry-level cameras, the used cameras are very affordable and they still hold up. 5, 6, even 10-year-old cameras still hold up, particularly this Olympus camera. The colors coming out of this camera and the autofocus and the speed and the quality of the body. This is an incredible camera, and I think it is the best camera that you can buy right now under $300. So there's a whole crop of great used cameras on the market, which can help support some of those entry-level buyers. The other thing we need to talk about is the sensor size advantage of Micro Four Thirds. And when we talk about Micro Four Thirds, usually the first thing people talk about is the disadvantage of the smaller sensor. But having a smaller sensor has a number of significant advantages. And the first one is the faster readout speed. And this is why this is a great camera. This is a great camera system for wildlife photography. You also get a deeper depth of field. This is why this is a great camera system for macro photography. So there'll be a lot of people pointing Micro Four Thirds sensor worse, but in real world use, when you're out doing wildlife or you're out doing macro, Micro Four Thirds small sensor better. So I think it is not just a one size fits all. The other thing we have to look at is because the smaller sensors are generally cheaper to produce, it means that you can buy a camera where less of the total cost goes into the camera and more of the total cost can go into the technology in the camera. And because of that, this is why the GH7 right now and the new OM1 Mark II basically have the most technology that you can get in a camera at that price point, because they were able to use the cost savings that they got from using a smaller sensor and put that into the technology in the camera. So you are going to get a much deeper feature set for the price of those cameras. So essentially you're getting pro level features or very high-end features at a lower cost. The other thing that this would allow these companies to do in the future is produce cheaper entry-level cameras. Now, we know that's not happening right now, but it is a possibility and it is on the cards. And people right now are generally buying APS-C cameras over full-frame cameras because they are cheaper. If either Panasonic or Olympus could release cameras that were cheaper than the APS-C cameras while giving similar or even a better feature set, they could bring in a whole new market into Micro Four Thirds, including like the creator market, young people transitioning from phones. So while neither of these manufacturers are taking advantage of that right now, it is certainly something that could happen in the future, and I hope happens in the future. And the other obvious thing about having a smaller sensor is it does allow you to make a smaller camera. And for a lot of people, that is a big deal for, travel or hiking or, what have you. And even though there's a lot of indication that there is a declining market share for Micro Four Thirds, I've got a press release here from OM Systems in 2021, which indicates that that might not be completely the case. Now, this is specifically about the Japanese market, where I think Micro Four Thirds is actually more popular than it is anywhere in the world. OM Digital Solutions Company Ltd. And Panasonic Corporation jointly announced the Micro Four Thirds system standard in 2008 and have endeavored to popularize this standard. In 2020, the 12th year, the interchangeable lens type in Japan in the digital camera market, we achieved the #1 share of the number of units by lens mount. Now, the Micro Four Thirds mount is still very popular in Japan, and when I see Japanese tourists around, it is not uncommon to see them with these Micro Four Thirds cameras, and we see that at a variety of age levels. So I'm seeing people in their 20s with Micro Four Thirds cameras. I am not seen a Canadian, American, an Australian, somebody from the UK in their 20s with a Micro Four Thirds camera. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm going to say it's very, very uncommon. And although we aren't seeing younger buyers in many of the Western countries, what we do see is that, and we do know, is that older buyers have money. And if you look at Olympus's top camera, the OM1 Mark II, and we look at Panasonic's GH7, these are high-end Micro Four Thirds cameras, and they're clearly targeted at these cashed up older buyers that are able to afford these cameras. Now, that probably doesn't help grow the market as a whole, but what it does do is it provides income to these companies that can perform a sort of a base layer of income to keep them going while they find a way to continue to try to develop the market and maybe release some cheaper cameras so that they can get some younger buyers into the market. But I think even if the camera market for Micro Four Thirds is declining or it's stable and not going up, having these older cashed up buyers buying these high-end cameras is going to help support these Micro Four Thirds cameras and the mounts at least for a period of time. There's really two ways I see the future of Micro Four Thirds going. One is these companies continue to release high-end cameras every few years, and they milk these older cashed up Micro Four Thirds buyers until the market dries up. They don't release any new affordable cameras. They don't bring younger people to the market. Maybe this mount and these cameras hold on primarily as a very niche, like wildlife and macro system. And OM Systems probably releases a few lenses along the way. But I think with this strategy, it is only a matter of time before the Micro Four Thirds mount just becomes super niche with some specific use cases, or is just gone altogether. The other possibility is that both OM Systems and or Panasonic release some more affordable camera body options that either give you more features at the price or hit a price point that APS-C and full frame can't match. They probably target like this new creator market that everybody talks about, or street photographers, or just people that have been taking great photos with their phones and they want a camera that's small and affordable, something better than their phone, but they're not, ready to carry around a big full frame camera or outlay that amount of cash. And I think for Micro Four Thirds to survive long term, that really needs to happen. They can't just release high-end cameras that cashed up buyers in their 60s or 70s are buying. But ultimately, in my mind, if you've got a Micro Four Thirds camera and you love the camera and you love the lenses that you've got and you're producing beautiful images, beautiful photos, beautiful videos, who cares about all this? I think it's totally irrelevant. Just go out there, enjoy your life, enjoy your camera, and capture some beautiful images.